Hello, everybody. I'm Subhankar Dutta. You would have heard me singing on Kansbahal band some time back, um, but I'm professionally a filmmaker. I make ad films. I'm slowly trying to move into the feature, the narrative cinema form, for which I have been writing my own content. And what I'm going to narrate today is one such story that I had written some time back to be a part of an anthology. It's not gotten made as a film just yet, but I am still hopeful that I'll get to make it sometime soon, or release it as a part of as a short story in a book. But I thought this will be a great platform for me to share the story with all of you, and please feel free to send me your feedback. I'll be open to all kinds of feedback, yeah, without further ado, let me start narrating this story. So the story is called Fear of God. It's written by me, Subhankar Dutta. Rambling through the dirty alleys of a slum in Mumbai, Abhineet is soaked in thoughts. Several things run through his mind as his eyes see naked toddlers running around through the muddy lanes, squeezing their supple half-torsos most artfully through the passers-by and the cyclists. It is a busy lane stuffed with a concocted smell from the early rots of the vegetables, with the vendors, smell of meat cutlets being fried over a kerosene stove, leaking sewage pipeline, and the spill over the ground. Abhineet mutters, "Bloody shit! Hell must smell like this." It immediately triggers something in him. He pauses as if he has been warned by someone to watch his words. It's always been in him to be humble and away from condescension. Then what's the source of this disdainful rant, he wonders. The sun is about to set and Abhineet is still not found the government hospital outside, which he is supposed to meet someone. The sun is about to set and Abhineet is still not found the government hospital outside, which he's supposed to meet someone. A someone who he has been given to believe will solve the crisis in his life. As he continues walking, he notices a shadow following him. From the corner of his eye, he can see a man with a skull cap. Every few steps he moves, the man moves with him. Almost 5 years back, Abhineet had moved to New York with his software engineer wife to live his great American dream. He had quit his high-paying advertising career in Mumbai to be a full-time writer, but things hadn't shaped the way he would have liked. Instead, his dreams looked further away than they ever did. Initial failures with work had stripped him of his confidence, and a financial drainout had further broken his spine. The otherwise beautiful relationship with his wife had started crumbling. Everything that he had once believed in seemed a farce. The entire core of him that built him had weakened. In his heydays, Abhineet was known to be the most progressive and strong independent thinker. He was a self-made man. Dogmatic practices in the name of religion were purely regressive for him. A very positive person and a highly talented individual, Abhineet was an inspiration amidst his peers. But 5 years seemed enough time for him to transform into a captive trapped in his own failures. Every day, after his wife had left for work, he would sit to write. But seldom his thoughts would go past a few words. Grim, cold, and weighed down by failures, he would sit for hours watching videos on YouTube. Recently, he had taken a liking in politics. The reason being, his favorite leader was ruling in India. Favorite, perhaps because that leader had won a massive election. And for once, it did feel great to be on the winning side. He would watch all videos that hailed his leader and would feel terrible every time someone condemned him. With the rise of Hindu nationalism in India, Abhineet had chosen his side. In his mind, posing as a party spokesperson, he had argued and thrashed all the political adversaries down, much like in the news. Even though he had a lot of his friends who were Muslims, the community had become an adversary to him. While to a third person it would seem like objectivity and reason had sneaked out of Abhineet, it had actually offered him a form of comfort at a time when life was stressful. Consumed by the inner devil, religious fanaticism and bigotry in the outset had suddenly started germinating as a feel-good element in him. As he walks along the muddy street, he sees men in skull caps. It reminds him of the superheated panel discussions on TV and all those YouTube videos that discussed about Muslims and their malicious agenda to conquer the world. Every step of his feels heavy, with a lot of bitterness fed by prejudiced, generalized notions about the whole community that primarily inhabits this locality in Bombay. Then what is he doing here? His parents in Banaras had his horoscope examined by a very popular pundit. Though the fortune teller had informed them of upheaval in his life by August last year, it was May now and there were no signs of any improvement. Often invoking the gods and spirits under such circumstances remains as the last option. Ambushed by the unknown forces that had conspired to pull him down, Abhineet had almost been cornered into turning to religion and spirits to be extricated. An old colleague, Salman, had suggested a Maulana Sahib who could help. Maulana Sahib had asked to see him outside the main entrance of the government hospital in Baikula. Standing in front of the government hospital in Baikula, Abhineet notices people seemingly hiding their faces behind beards. He can sense the reason for his discomfort. He had read that this particular place was supposedly the breeding ground for the famous Mumbai Mafia. He knew that his discomfort was a result of a disproportionate quantity of hatred and fear born of suspicion. He looks at his wristwatch, exercising some caution as he still feels that he is under someone's gaze. It is 6 p.m. in an October evening. The sun had set and the darkness both outside and within seemed to be coming to pounce at him. A call to Maulana Sahib to check his whereabouts had returned in disappointment as he was told that the meeting could only happen after the namaz. If he wished to see him today, he would either have to wait for 2 hours in this dumping ground with wrigglers around or come back another day. It was a difficult decision to make, but eventually he decides to stick around. After all, it was his fault. He had been late by 15 minutes. Though in Bombay, one always has the terrible traffic for an excuse. In the given circumstances, this alibi was absolutely in due time. Disgusted, disappointed, and feeling unsafe, he decides to find a cafeteria to wait. But his disappointment wouldn't stop at that. Finding a cafeteria in that area was like looking for water in a desert. People in such areas usually drink tea, 4 to 5 cups of milky tea with other condiments that justified the cost and was far more satisfying rather than paying an obnoxious amount for getting coffee with the cup half filled with frothy deceit smiling at you quite literally. Abhineet decides to walk along the main road and skip the shady gullies. Every few steps he would turn around to look for the shadow that was following him. Though he can't spot someone specifically, he knows for sure that he has a tail. He starts making furtive steps to the main road while his eyes search for a place where he can wait. After walking for almost half a mile, he sees an icon that looks familiar: the McDonald's. The McDonald's signboard almost stares at him as he continues approaching it with some sense of relief. It is fascinating to think how polished executives from business schools serving brands like McDonald's that are icons of American capitalism put in meticulous planning to invade geographies and civil societies across the globe. And with abject ruthlessness, they have successfully penetrated through to the otherwise worthless territories like these to expunge the last coin out. To Abhineet, in that situation, the logo itself meant unwavering faith. The darkness and the anxiety that was growing rapidly feels dipping as he draws closer to the outlet. At the entrance to the outlet, he looks around to check if he still had his stalker. But except for the glaring headlamps of cars and motorbikes and a multitude of people and the circumambient cacophony, there's no one to be seen. The place looks empty. Abhineet takes a table in one corner and decides to get something to eat. After a lot of deliberation on what he should eat from a menu that offers only junk food, one competing with the other in the intensity of junkness, he decides to have a veg burger. Until 5 years back, paying for veg food was almost blasphemous for Abhineet. But his mum had told him now that Tuesdays are Lord Hanuman's days, and it was meant for abstinence. After all, a possible success in life could surely not be exchanged for a chicken burger. The corner table is now resplendent with a tray embellished with veg burger, a sugary chocolate milkshake, and French fries. It is all a super saver combo meant for smart people to choose. This is one time such brands allow you to remove all self-doubt and feel proud of being smart enough. Munching through his burger, Abhineet waits. The needles of the watch will have to go on right angles 8 times before his meeting. That means much longer than the food could last. So Abhineet resorts to eating slow. Very slow. The front door opens and Abhineet feels discomfort stepping in. It's a well-built Muslim man with a few women and children. The women are clad in burqas. Abhineet is immediately reminded of the lessons on women's freedom that his Western education had taught him for years. The kids are naughty and loud. Soon, there are few others following his family. Soon, there are few others following this family. The outlet is almost full, as if this first family was a harbinger. Abhineet looks at his wristwatch. He knows that he will have to bear with Abhineet looks at his wristwatch. He knows that he will have to bear with all of this for another hour and a half. The French fries have gone cold, but their presence will offer him enough company to remain occupied. A burly man walks up to him and towers over in a manner that's intimidating. "Can I please take this chair? We'll need a few for my family," asked this man very politely. A scared Abhineet barely notices the tone as he agrees. His assent is premeditated, as he knows that he would never have protested against this barbarian. Abhineet feels a rumble in his belly. Something in him wasn't agreeing. It had been a long day with one meeting after the other without much success. He had not found time to eat after breakfast, which had added to the emptiness brought about by the disappointment. The gods had looked away from him all these years, and now it had come to this point where he was having to invoke a foreigner god, called Allah, through his agent. Was Allah more considerate or more powerful? Could the hostility of the Hindu gods be compared to the Indian politicians? Abhineet had often stumbled upon such horrid questions, but soon The fear of God and his powers that could castigate him had him abandon such a line of thought. Self-pity, desperation, the noise and the faces seemed to be getting exceedingly bothersome and are constantly growing in Abhineet. It feels like all these people are staring at him and are purposely adding to his misery by building that chaos. Suddenly, Abhineet notices a waiter ogling at him through the counter. He realizes that it is the same guy who had served him the food. The name tag read, Ehtisham Ahmed. Why is he staring at me? Is he the one who was following me all throughout? Maybe. He has a beard too. Abhineet thought. Ahmed had insisted on buying the chocolate milkshake. Had he spiked my drink? This very thought ignites a discomfort that soon finds an epicenter in Abhineet's belly. It is slowly and steadily making its way upwards through his esophagus. He is covered in sweat as the fear devours the last remains of reason in Abhineet. Ahmed wore a smirk as he watched Abhineet. This had almost activated a ticking bomb. Abhineet races out through the front door with shaky steps. His faltering feet lead him to the main road with wild traffic. A glare grows on him, and before he can think, the world blurs out before his eyes and turns black. Abhineet wakes up to find himself on an infinite staircase in a dilapidated building. There's a deafening silence as he feels pushed by an urge to walk up the stairs. As he ascends, one step after the other, there's a chime of bells that he can hear. The stairs are unending and there are no handrails on the side. With every step, Abhineet experiences fear of losing balance and falling down. But the bell chimes are reassuring and strangely enough have a comforting pull. It is getting windy and cold as he goes up and more cautioned than the last one. He takes a deep breath and continues walking through a cloud that covers the next few steps. It is blinding and the only guides are the bell chimes that continue growing. The cloud cover thins and Abhineet can hear the sounds very distinctly. He can almost hear a crowd now. A gust of wind hits his face and his chest fills with the maximum air that his lungs can hold. He finds himself on the highest step from where he can see tiny heads like dots. It's a sea of people. They seem to be hailing him in unison. A fragrant smell envelopes him and he feels firm. Is this happiness? He wonders. Exulting people are calling out his name. One voice sounds distinct. A huge cloud flies past his eyes. There's a name in front of the eyes. Abhineet turns his head to see the face. It's Ehtisham Ahmed, the man behind the counter in McDonald's. Sir, are you okay? A crowd is overlooking on him as he lies on the road. A searing pain seeps in as Abhineet tries to move. Someone offers him a glass of water as Ahmed helps him get up. He sits down and takes a sip from the glass of water. The line between dream and reality seems blurred. Is he dead? Or did he come back to life from death? Enfolded in pain and discombobulated, he is unable to think. Ahmed is still holding him. Abhineet can see these people around, up and close. They are the same lot of wrigglers with dull, poverty-stricken faces. But beard or no beard, the concern for him on their faces is genuine and homogeneous. One of those faces starts speaking. I know you wanted to die. If this man had not pulled you out, that lorry would have mashed you. A second man says, Allah has saved you, brother. Everything will be alright, don't worry. Another man says as the crowd disperses, in no time. People leave and everything looks back as it had been some time ago. Except Ahmed sits beside him, holding the glass of water. He asks, "Where do you want to go? Can I help you with something?" Abhineet looks at Ahmed and, following a long gaze, says, "I want to go home." Ahmed helps him stand up. He helps him book an Uber. Sat in the cab next to his driver, Muhammad Ayub. Abhineet retrospects about the events of the day and almost concludes with a chuckle. Muhammad Ayub, a Muslim man who he shouldn't trust, is now reaching him home to Shankar Gali in Kandivali without any qualms. Perhaps because it is his job to drive and the payment had already been made online. Glimpses of the staircase flash in his mind as he smiles away. The memory of firmness that he had felt on top just reignites a colossal confidence that had gone missing long back. A realization seeps in that each of us is born with a purpose, some to drive cars, some to sell things, and some others to do something else. We're all on a journey and are fellow travelers holding different flags. But the purpose remains the same. That to not stop till we conclude. Hurdles are eventually crossed with persistent efforts. And if some wall doesn't break, we're possibly on the wrong road. Abhineet knows now that the fear of God had sent him meandering through the narrow lanes into darkness and miles away from his goal. But now he had found his path. He mutters to himself, "I didn't come this far, only to come this far." Thank you.